when women end up getting pregnant, I think it's usually because of ignorance. Like it just happens, and they don't expect it to happen, but it does.
They hear about it maybe happening to one of their friends, but like they don't think it's going to happen to them.
You might want something to love and to love you back, and you might feel insecure or something, and that could give you the security you need. They probably have like contests, oh, who's gonna do it with that girl first and all that. And I don't think they really care, like all they do, like, because it's not their problem. We're the one that has to like carry the baby and everything.
Some guys do care, like,
yeah,
because some of them will say like, I'll try to help as much as I can, but what can they really do? They can't do much. They're like, they might be 15, 16, and like they don't have a job.
I think guys in general guys I know do pretty well, because a lot of them think to use protection ahead of time. Well, the smart ones anyway, and then the other ones just really aren't worth your time.
Maybe if others see her pregnant, they'll say, well, I'm not going to let that happen to me, and they'll be more careful.
There is nothing new about teenagers getting pregnant, but in the olden days, you either quickly married the father or were whisked away to a home for unwed mothers until the baby was born, and then it was placed for adoption. But things have changed. High divorce rates in the last couple of decades mean there are more single parents. Experts say because of this kind of change in social attitudes, as well as more and better support services, more young women in the 90s are keeping their babies. A lot more.
You be careful.
This is 18-month-old Matthew Sage. And his 19-year-old mother, Tanya Burgess.
He's not a swing baby.
Tanya was living with Matthew's father, Alan, for 4 months before she got pregnant. She was taking the pill, although admits to not taking it regularly.
I thought, I'm 16, I can't have a baby. I'm too young. Then I thought, well, why not? My mom did it, I can do it. A lot of people do it younger, so I thought I might as well.
Had you thought about how you would survive financially and emotionally?
Alan was supporting me financially. Emotionally, I'm pretty strong that way on my own, so I don't need anybody's emotional support.
But 15 months after Matthew was born, Tanya and his father broke up. She moved away from him and her family in Barrie and came to Kitchener. This day, it is 3 months after the move. They are living at the YWCA, and Tanya is on welfare. She depends on social assistance, but finds the system frustrating.
It's hard to understand because I would like to work. I have no qualms about working, but I work, I don't get, I make less than I would on mother's allowance. So what's the use of me working? I want to go to school, but I can't afford the daycare. I do get subsidy daycare, but there isn't enough daycares for Matthew to go to. There's only 4 or 5 daycares in the city that will accept toddlers.
In its last survey on teen pregnancy in 1988, Statistics Canada found that more than 20,000 girls gave birth that year. That's half as many as in 1970. But social workers say 20 years ago, 80% of young single women placed them for adoption. Today, that figure is reversed.
What would you like to be doing right now?
I'd like to be in school right now, getting my last 3 credits. I'd like Matthew to be in a daycare where he is with other children besides all adults. Women. I'd like him to be with men, too. Yeah, that's about mostly what I want.
What do you want to finish school for?
Why do I want to? So I don't have to be on mother's allowance for the rest of my life.
Is there a certain amount of stigma about that?
There's a lot of discrimination about it, yeah. I had a hard time finding a place because I'm on mother's allowance, because I'm 19, because I have a baby, because I'm a student. That's why it took me 3 months to find housing.
Is it hot?
Tanya says she doesn't drink, smoke, or do drugs, but has to fight the stereotype that most of the welfare check is spent on booze and cigarettes.
I guess everyone is just generalized, and I don't think that's right, because there are people who will be on government assistance for the rest of their lives because they don't want to do anything. And if the government's going to take care of them, fine. But then there are people like me who need the help because they need it and there's nothing else for them. But they don't want to be on it. And so they're going to do everything they can to get off of it.
Did you think about all this when you were pregnant?
No, you don't think about that when you're pregnant. That doesn't go through your head. No, I thought I was going to marry Al and live with him for the rest of my life.
And live happily ever after?
Yeah, Cinderella story.
Do you ever feel guilty that you might not be able to provide him with the kind of life you hope he should have?
Just let me relax here. No, I'm not materialistic, so I don't think he needs, I don't think he needs fancy clothes, all the best toys and things like that.
What is making you feel like this?
Well, I'm not gonna lie, I do want him to have the best of everything. The best clothes, the best toys, the best place to live. And I know that I can't give that to him. But I can give him everything else. I can make sure that he is happy and well cared for and loved. And I think that's just as important as the material things.
There are 3 options for teenagers who get pregnant: abortion, adoption, or parenting. Since this program is about having babies, we're focusing on the choices to place for adoption or raise the child. Choices for these young people that will be among the toughest they'll ever have to make. Often a decision that will have to be made by the young woman, and in the majority of cases, without the father's help.
It's a minority where I will see couples coming together, trying to make a decision together. The majority of the young women that I'm working with do not have that kind of support, that very often the relationship, if it hasn't broken up just after she has become pregnant, certainly when he finds out she is pregnant, then he's not part of it. However, I think that birth fathers also have the very same kind of feelings that the birth moms do, that they also are confused and scared, and that there aren't a lot of support systems for them.
Just ask Kirk Newart. He and his girlfriend Tammy Schiebel are living together and raising their baby Jessie. They were referred to Jean Kirkham at Family and Children's Services when Tammy got pregnant at 15. Kirk was 16. They both quit school so they could get jobs and put some money aside to raise their baby. But they soon realized they probably wouldn't be able to support their child. So they decided on adoption.
I guess my piece of it is to try to put some reality into it. You know, what will it be like for you if you have to stay on welfare? What will it be like for you if you have to leave school? How do you think you're going to handle, you know, this situation and that situation? What will it be like for you if the relationship that you have now breaks up in a very short time? What will it be like for you to be a single mom on your own? So to put some reality into it, and then the decision is theirs.
Well, like, I think the thing that I'll always remember, she said, it's not just, what did she say? It's not just raising it's not just keeping a baby, it's raising a child. And that made a lot of sense at the time. Like, 'cause it's not just the point of keeping him, it's that he's gonna be here for the rest of your life. So you always have, you know, something. You can't lack on responsibility anymore. Like work, you can't wake up in the morning and say, I don't wanna go, because there's always something there why you have to go.
It is the hardest decision they will ever make in their lives. And it's a pleasure to be part of that with them. There is sadness, there's great pain in it, tremendous pain for many of them. But there also can be great moments of satisfaction and joy for them too.
I mean, as soon as I saw him, I had to walk out from her because I didn't want to cry in front of her and make her upset, but I walked out because I knew that I couldn't give him up. Like, this is my son, you know, I can't just walk away from him, basically.
Often I'll go into the hospital, and the decision that has been made previously, now when the baby is born, it's changed. I mean, when the young baby is there and they look at the baby, it's a whole different thing than just something that isn't real. You know, you're carrying the child, but the reality of actually seeing the baby. So yes, yeah, some of them do change their minds, yes.
I think reality in general hit us. Like, when I thought about keeping him, I didn't realize that it was going to be as hard as it was. Like, because there's not only the financial, but most parents have, like, what, 25 years to mature, and we had 9 months to mature into parents. And, like, that's a lot of responsibility to try to handle in a really short time. But I guess...
It's certainly a lot of responsibility, too, when you're at an age where you still need a lot of parenting.
Yeah. We kind of grew up really fast because we had to for him, didn't we?
Tammy and Kirk say at first their parents were concerned with their decision to raise Jesse, and although they don't always agree on things, both sets of parents have been very supportive.
Like, I want to finish high school, and I want to go to college, and I want to be a police officer. Like, that's been my dream for a long time. Like, my mom, when I quit school, she made that little policeman, and it says, hold on to your dream.
For now, though, that dream is on hold. Kirk is firmly entrenched in the reality of supporting Tammy and Jesse. They, too, are on welfare. Kirk has just finished a government training program and is now working as a lab technician.
Well, I want to go back to school for sure. I want to finish that. And I'm not sure what I'm going to do after that. I don't know if I'm going to... Well, I want to get a job for sure, and it's not really going to bother me what job I get. But then I also want to be able to spend time with Jesse.
Linda Feldpush is the executive director of St. Monica House, a maternity home that gives young pregnant women the skills in life to build a better future.
Mothers, and as you're interviewing young mothers, you will begin to sense that there are differences between the young mothers who are struggling and sorting out a plan of adoption and the young mothers who are struggling and sorting out a plan to raise their child. And some of the differences you may find are that the young mothers who are choosing to place their child for adoption may have a clear sense of what their needs are and may have clear goals, aspirations of going to university, and they'll have a clear understanding of what the needs and the demands of being a parent are. They may have aspirations for certain things for their children and may see that the opportunity to have that child placed in a family that could possibly provide those where she possibly can't at this point in time, she may choose to, that might be a factor in her making a decision to place for adoption.
I have school to finish. I want to go off to college, either into law or social services. So I knew I couldn't raise him, and I didn't want him with a babysitter all the time. So we checked into adoption. We found out the procedures and what went on, and the family that I picked couldn't have children whatsoever, so they have a right to have a family. So I gave them a gift that they couldn't have, I guess. And because I'll always have kids again, and I can wait for a family.
Leanne Leonard was 17 when she became pregnant. When she broke the news to her boyfriend of 3 months, they got into an argument and broke up. She didn't expect to get pregnant because she was taking birth control pills, but she was also on antibiotics for tonsillitis. She says the decision to place her baby for adoption was an unselfish one because she wanted him to have all the things she didn't think she could provide for him.
You feel like he's in good hands?
I know he's in good hands. So.
And that helps you?
Oh, yeah. A lot.
This is Joshua here. He's 8 years old.
Leanne lives with her best friend Tracy and her family. She said adoption was her choice, and her father and her friends were supportive of that decision, even though her best friend admits it's a tough choice she wouldn't want to have to make.
I don't know. I probably would have wanted to keep it, right? Like, I mean, I don't have anything against, you know, giving a baby up for adoption, but just myself, I don't know if I could do that, but I know that I would have to. I really don't know. I don't want to make the decisions, so I don't know what I'd do.
Leanne says the way the adoption procedure works today made her feel more involved in her son's future. She's able to communicate with the family she picked for the first 6 months of her son's life. But she has assured them they are a family now and can get on with living their own lives.
I consider him as my child, but when I see the pictures and read the letters, I think of him as a cousin or a brother or something, because I don't want to, you know, he's got to go. So, like, I got to let it go sometime, but he'll always be there.
Does it hurt at all?
Oh, yeah, it hurts a lot. But I try to, friends talk about it. Like, I don't mind if I bring it up, but if friends bring it up, then it's really upsetting.
Why is it upsetting?
I guess, I don't know, just the fact that I carried a child for 9 months and he's with another family, so I don't know, just knowing that I have a son out there.
What's in here? What's in here? Where's the mouse? Where's the mouse in there?
Marzi and Paul Meadows have been married for 8 years. They would like nothing more than to have children, but they can't have their own, so they're trying to adopt. They applied to Children's Aid 3 years ago and are amazed at how detailed the process is.
You've got to be absolutely upfront about everything, and as I said, you learn more about yourself than
you learn
ever
more about
dreamed
why
possible.
you want a child than I think if you just found yourself pregnant one day, you know.
You really have to dig deep and find out and really try and put down in writing and explain to people exactly what's driving you to want a family.
Pretty good. Well, I don't think you have a problem with getting your collector's badge for this lot, to be honest.
But once you've gone through it, it's a wonderful process, actually, because you learn so much about yourself. And I can only speak for Paul and I, but there's a sort of confidence with us now that we know we can be good parents. You know, we know that we'll love that baby more than anything. And it's such a wonderful opportunity to be able to adopt, because I think if we didn't have adoption, our whole life would look different.
Although there isn't any conclusive research on what effect so many young mothers keeping their babies is having, Family and Social Services caseworker Flora Cross says she sees it having a very serious effect on both the babies and the teenagers.
On the baby, because most of these teens just simply aren't able to meet the needs of a baby, and we have babies who later on may become neglected or abused or just unwanted. And this increases our protection cases, of course. The teenager then feels like a failure, no matter what reason she decided to keep the baby. She has failed at something. A lot of these teenagers are looking for loving themselves, and they think they're going to get that from this baby, but in effect, that isn't what happens.
Single parenthood must be attractive from the point of view that there is the social acceptance and there is the government support, the monetary support to a certain extent. And there are programs where a girl can continue her education, but it's all part-time, and it's all, what you have to remember that in the meantime, to allow yourself to get on with your life, you have to sacrifice a lot for that baby's care. And you know, I think that the compromise must be, you know, to me the scales must be unbalanced, because I don't see how you can provide, you know, meet your own needs and that child's needs on your own.
The idea of a check coming in is often very appealing to a young 15-year-old girl. It gives her a chance to leave home if that's what she wants. But in effect, they usually end up living in abject poverty without any of the fun that they were having, without doing things with their friends. And life usually isn't what they're hoping it would be. All the time, really, a teenager should focus on growing up themselves and becoming a mature adult, which indeed means they should think about probably giving up the child or something of that sort. But they need to sit down with somebody, probably as well as their parents, an outside professional, and talk about this and really feel comfortable with what they're doing.
I think the people, or the girls that look at adoption as the alternative are the ones that really give it thought and are looking at it from the child's point of view as well.
And as Cross points out, there is a very big difference between nurturing an infant and raising a child.
Well, it's phenomenal. An infant for a short time is fairly pliable. They may cry and fuss, but they don't argue with you, and you're sort of controlling them. But it isn't long before this little bundle of joy is saying no and wanting to make their own decisions, and that's when a lot of this single parenting breaks down.
Her baby will be going to a good home and will be loved very, very much, and that we think of her as well. And she's not just someone who delivers a baby.
Yeah, everybody talks about the baby, but there is, going through the adoption process, you're very aware of the mother's hurt, if you like, and courage as well, because
courage.
I think...
And tremendous courage.
Yeah.
To be able to go through it and be committed to it for you know, her child.
I think a 15, 16, 17-year-old should concentrate on being a teenager, growing up, knowing that later on they can have a family and be a good parent.
We've gone through a lot of preparation for this, and we're at an age now that we can sort of look back at, if I'd have been a 16-year-old father, say, I mean, I don't know how I would have coped. I would have probably done what most do and just turn tail because of it's a really scary thing. I mean, I don't think there's a bigger responsibility that anybody could give you as a baby.
We desire to be parents because we want to bring forth that person and allow that person, that little person, the opportunity to grow and be themselves, you know, be their own person.
We're going to have our ups and downs like anybody else, but I think we've got the key ingredients to be sort of a good family here. We love each other very much. We got a very loving home here. The values we have are they're based around the family unit.
Even though the social stigma has been almost eliminated from single-parent families, there's still reason to be concerned about young teenagers keeping their babies. Housing, health, making ends meet. Their age alone limits them from things like getting married without parental consent, voting, finding affordable accommodation, and sometimes even employment. But as the teens you met tonight made clear, they can't all be lumped into the same category. We don't know what kind of an effect this trend, children keeping their children, is going to have on society in the years to come. But one thing's for sure, their future, our future, depends on how well they're looked after.